Looking back on 2024, I've realized that fitting an adventure in every single week has had a massive impact on my mental state, my energy levels, and overall well-being. My life is the most productive, happy, and healthy that it's ever been. And I really think I can contribute this to an experiment that I did this year in which I did an adventure every single week. In this video, we're gonna look at what a year of constant adventure looked like. And this is through the lens of someone that has a job, a family, and a ton of other stuff going on. And we're gonna see the positive impacts this had on my life, as well as the things that would make me question doing this experiment again. For a little background, about halfway through 2024, I was looking through my calendar and my photos and realized that I had done some big adventure every single weekend. And I decided at this moment to make a personal experiment and make sure I got some big adventure in, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, every single week of 2024. The size and scope of these adventures varied quite a bit. These included things like backpacking 4 days through the Wind River Range of Wyoming, climbing and skiing many Colorado 14 and 13,000 foot peaks, hiking around the jungles of Costa Rica. I was on a work trip in Singapore and decided to do a 15 to 20 mile run through the city to explore it, to even one of my best friend's wedding, which is definitely an adventure in its own right. My definition of an adventure was doing some new novel activity, exploring a new area, or just pushing outside of my existing comfort zone. I tried not to keep anything that was like a normal mountain bike ride at my local trail or going just skiing at the resort as an adventure, as this is just a more normal thing. This definition was really to push myself to explore new places and try new things. I will say to do this, sometimes I had to get a little creative, and there's a few days where I just bundled a ton of things to count as an adventure. Like one day I went skiing at the resort, I did a backcountry ski, I caught a fish fly fishing on the way home, and then I did a mountain bike ride later. Again, this was kind of pushing my comfort zone and fitting so many things together that it felt like more of a big epic day versus one of these things individually. A vast majority of my adventures were spent outside, wetting a fly line in a new river, hiking a mountain with skis on my back, or exploring a peak with trail runners. However, I really think that this idea and concept is much more general than that and can apply to any kind of adventure that might speak to you. These are the adventures that I love, and I figure if you're watching my channel, you're probably a little bit more outdoor adventure inclined as well. You can see my list of 52 adventures down in the description to see what I counted personally as an adventure, and let me know if any look suspect. Before we get to the many benefits this year of adventure had on my life, I want to acknowledge this isn't novel, and many people build their whole lives around adventure. This was my past as well. I spent many years as a whitewater rafting guide on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. I was a fly fishing guide, and my life used to be just adventure, and that was a beautiful thing. What made this experiment different from my past was fitting this into a packed life with so many other things. I have a super demanding job, I have a family, I have relationships that I'm trying to maintain with friends, and I am always trying to prioritize my health as well. Fitting these adventures into my busy life was the challenge here, but also probably the most impactful thing I could have done. So with that, let's talk about the many benefits that I got from this year of adventure. The first benefit of this experiment was I always had something to look forward to. This often looked like quarterly large adventures and then these weekly smaller adventures. And this transformed my 2024 into an exciting series of chapters. At any given time, I was planning for some bigger trip while also getting ready for some smaller weekend trip. And this just brought added excitement and that adventure into my everyday life. Tim Ferriss has a quote I really like that summarized is, "The opposite of happiness is boredom." And that when building a life, the question you should be asking is not how to find your passion or be happy, but chase what excites you. This quote rang especially true during this experiment, as I just brought so much excitement into my life with these adventures through not only doing them, but the planning, the preparing, and the reflection back on the amazing experiences I was living. Exploring new places and seeing new things completely lights me up and is my attempt to chase excitement in life. Many of these adventures were physically demanding and exhausting. However, the energy that I got from doing this cascaded into all aspects of my life, like my relationships, work, and overall health. The next big benefit, which is kind of counterintuitive, is that somehow I feel more productive by doing this. This must be how parents somehow say they're way more productive after having kids just because they're forced to do so. I found myself needing to be much more diligent with my time and do long-term planning around these adventures and trips. This also created great excuses for avoiding things that I didn't think were important and prioritizing my time where I desired and most impactful to me. Looking back, it's insane how much I fit into this year, and a lot of that came from just jamming adventures into my calendar. This is what a life well lived looks like to me, and it's awesome to look back on my photo roll and see something I'm proud of doing every single week. The next thing I noticed is being outside and close to nature every single week humbled and really grounded me. Not to get too philosophical here, but the vastness of nature does remind me I'm just a little blip in the universe, and that the difference between life and death is merely a poorly placed step. This perspective shift just always has helped me prioritize my life and stay focused where I think it's going to be most impactful. The next big benefit is that these adventures came with a ton of exercise, sunshine, and fresh air, which combined is definitely the most effective antidepressant known to man. This exercise and being outside not only has made me happier and healthier, but these things have paid dividends in all aspects of my life. Being stronger, fitter, and more focused has made me better at work. It's made me a better husband and made me physically and mentally the strongest version of myself, capable of the things that I want out of life. This year of adventure also hardened me mentally. Everyday stressors now felt like nothing compared to the challenges I was facing weekly in the mountains, and overall I became a much more gritty human being from this. I believe much of one's success can be attributed to how much stress you can bear over a long period of time, and this year of adventure is the thing that's probably increased that work capacity and the amount of stress I can take more than anything else I've ever done. The next big benefit I saw were just more states of flow and meditative moments. I'll be honest, the ways that I do these adventures is not that chilling in nature, enjoying the view kind of vibes, and is very go, go, go. I often am fitting these adventures in early in the morning in between other things I need to do, and these often came with late night drives to a trailhead or waking up at the crack of dawn to fit a climb in and then do something with my wife in the afternoon. And even though they're not relaxing in nature, these adventures do come with many moments of flow. When you're walking along a knife ridge or casting to a massive rising brown trout, there is nothing in your mind besides what is right in front of you. And these meditative moments on a singular focus are really rejuvenating to me and just kind of get me out of my normal mental state, which is much more neurotic in nature. There's a ton of research around this term that's been coined flow and the benefits here, but in general, these adventures were just forcing more of these important moments into my life. The last big benefit I've noticed is I just have a much larger library of life experiences, magical moments, and stories. Like I said earlier, this is what a life well lived looks like to me. And now I can look back at the year and just pull out so many amazing memories and overall look back and just be proud of 2024. Now with us all fired up over the great things this year of adventure led to, let's talk about some of the negatives that came along for the ride. The first of that is that this year was exhausting. Fitting in all these adventures within an already super packed and busy life with obligations, travel, work, prioritizing health and everything else was a lot, in all honesty. As an example, one weekend I recall being super sick, but still driving like 2 hours to a new lake to fly fish, thinking it was kind of the lowest energy adventure I could do, and just feeling like absolute crap when doing that. I definitely don't recommend doing that, and overall this experiment left very little time for rest and relaxation. The next negative is I had to make a lot of sacrifices to fit in all these adventures. These took up a lot of time, not only doing them, but the planning. So I had to say no to a ton of stuff to prioritize adventure for myself. There were a lot of trade-offs here, and since these adventures might be not outright productive or something that is an absolute necessity for life, sometimes trying to fit those in with those other necessities is difficult. As discussed earlier, I think some of the cascading impacts of these adventures counteract a lot of this, But there's no free lunch out there, and there's definitely trade-offs on your time, your energy, and your priorities when fitting in this many adventures. The next thing that might be considered a negative for some is you have to be super comfortable doing some of these adventures solo. Sure, maybe you get people to join you on some of these, but if you're trying to fit 52 in a year, just the coordination with everyone would be such a time suck, it's not worth it. So getting comfortable going outside and doing these things by yourself is pretty essential to doing this in reality. With that said, I personally love spending time in the mountains by myself. However, I have a lot of experience that makes me feel safe doing this. I spent my entire life in the outdoors, so I feel very comfortable doing these big trips and these climbs solo. However, if you have less experience, just be cognizant that being by yourself in the mountains will always come with additional risk. The last negative I noticed is that recovery was really difficult through all this, especially when you had crazy life stressors and work stressors in a big adventure all on top of one another. That led to me kind of overtraining a few times. I got a lot better at this as the year went on, but ensuring that I had adequate rest and recovery time was definitely a big challenge of this whole project, and something that you're just gonna have to work through and figure out for yourself and your own body. Those are the pros and cons of my year of adventure, and can wholeheartedly say that this was one of the best years of my life, and attribute a lot of that to fitting all of this in, even if it was painful from time to time. Going into 2025, I'm not positive I'm gonna do an adventure every single week, but 100% will be prioritizing adventure. For planning purposes, I'm gonna make sure I get those big epic trips in now at the very beginning of the year, just to ensure I have them blocked off in my calendar, and then can fit other stuff like smaller trips and work and life stuff in around those. One thing I noticed is those big adventures probably had more of those positive impacts than the smaller ones. So I think prioritizing those is kind of my big goal as I plan out 2025. I'm not suggesting you replicate my exact journey here, but would implore you to fit a little bit more adventure, no matter the size, into your own life, and watch the benefits and the improvements that come from that. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to follow me on some of my adventures, hit subscribe down below.